Today I want to delve a little bit into emergency management and disaster messaging for public information officers in particular. I've written a couple times on our blog about the characteristics of a key message, those things that make it stand out and ensure what's being said is also being heard. I want to expand on that a little bit in this presentation by sharing my process for developing an effective message from scratch during a critical incident. That process is best summarized by 4 overarching questions I ask myself as I craft my message. The first of which is, with whom am I actually trying to speak? And this goes back to the fundamental communication tenet of knowing who your audience is first and foremost. Am I speaking to community leaders, business owners, employers, elected officials, etc.? Knowing with whom I'm speaking will have a significant bearing on the questions that follow. Once I know who my audience is, the next question is, what's my communication objective with that particular audience? In other words, what result do I want from my communication with them? In disaster situations, I typically need to decide whether I'm trying to build support for a specific effort, whether I'm looking for understanding or acceptance of a particular action, position, or operation, whether I'm seeking information from a particular public or audience, and or do I need to spur them into some sort of action or inaction to help support the operation. With the first 2 questions answered, I then ask myself, what am I going to say in order to get the result that I'm looking for? To answer this question the right way, it's imperative that I not only simply consider what I might want to say, but also what my audiences need to hear, and how they need to hear it. Now, I may want to tell a particular audience what a great job everyone is doing on the response or ensure that we're acknowledging our response partners, but a public that's facing an uncertain situation doesn't necessarily need or want to hear that sort of thing. And it's equally as important to consider how they get that message. I may have set up a great Facebook page or a Twitter handle for a particular operation, but if none of the intended public either uses that platform or follows the page, I'm not going to get the results I'm looking for. The last question I ask myself in these situations is, does the message that I've crafted have what I consider to be the components of an effective message? So let's take a look at these things closer. Is the message honest? And by this I mean, is it sincere? Does it truly reflect not only the reality of the situation, but my reality as well? No hyperbole, no understating the situation. During a crisis, my audience is going to be skeptical already. They will sense that insincerity and they will tune me out. Is the message relevant? And by this I mean, is it pertinent to the response effort and or of value to the people that I'm speaking with? The cooperation and partner agency message is a classic example. We always want to thank our agency partners and point out that we're doing things jointly. And that's all fine, but to the impacted audiences, it's kind of irrelevant. They're likely more interested in how the agencies are working with and for them. And if we are compelled to talk about the joint effort, they're probably more interested in how that joint effort is specifically helping them. Is the message simple? Those impacted by disaster have a very narrow bandwidth for processing information. They're stressed, they're scared, they're angry. The more simple and straightforward my language, the better chance my audience will absorb it. Is the message positive? Now, I'm not talking about painting a rosy picture or spinning a situation. When I say positive, I mean, does my message convey confidence and optimism? And does it do it with the right attitude, focus, and energy so that it resonates positively with the intended audience? A common example I see is when organizations in their messaging use it to define their position by what it's not, as opposed to simply stating their position as it is. Here's an example of an otherwise decent message, but crafted and delivered negatively. Note the references to what they're not going to do, and the inclusion of expressions and words like cavalier and drag our feet. Now, here's the same message delivered in a more positive style. As far as I'm concerned, both spokespersons are essentially delivering the exact same message. It's just that one is doing it more effectively. Lastly, is the message memorable? It's not enough to simply get my message to the intended audience. I want them to process and retain that message after the communication is over. I see this most often in the form of cliches. A cliche message might have most of the right characteristics of an effective message, but ultimately it's tuned out because it's cliche. Quote, "Our thoughts and prayers are with the family. We are bringing all available resources to bear. Safety is our top priority." It's not that these messages aren't honest, relevant, simple, or positive. It's that we've heard them countless times, and they simply do not register. In 2000, we were responding to the crash of Alaska Airlines 261 off Oxnard, California. I was prepping the Coast Guard's Pacific Area Commander to deliver an update on the search and rescue efforts. His writers had included the obligatory empathy message as you see here. While we were going over his opening statement, we advised him to consider something a little more personal for the empathy message, something in his own words. Personal is more memorable. This was the version he ultimately delivered, which, in my opinion, was significantly more memorable. So there you have it. Know your audience, know what you want to say to whom and how, know what it is you want to accomplish, and ensure your message has the key components necessary to be effective. If you found this information useful and you'd like more critical incident and disaster communication insights, you can sign up for one of our workshops or visit our blog at www.thecrisiscommunicator.com. Thanks.